Hello and welcome to our episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby. We are here in London at the Summit for Wealth Management, and it is my great pleasure to introduce you to John Glover. John, how are you?
Very well, thanks Toby.
Listen, lovely to meet you today. We're here at the event. We're to be talking a little bit about what you're seeing, why you're here, a few of the other bits and pieces. It seems like a really well-attended event, great agenda for everything we're talking about today. I'm looking forward to doing a number of different interviews. But first and foremost, let's talk you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the business, or businesses, as we should say.
Quite, Toby. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, so I'm here as part of Money Alive. Money Alive have a couple of products, Money Alive Office, and then Video Canvas, which is two kind of product lines that are all to do with video content. A bit of history will give you a bit of a sense of where we're coming from and where we're going. We set up Money Alive way back in 2017 at York University, and we worked there with the idea of creating an educational palette for advisors to use to prepare their customers and clients ahead of an advice meeting. How we do it is through the idea of a box set. So if you're familiar with the Netflix, Amazon Prime, and you get involved with The Crown and you're watching various numbers of videos and chapters and getting excited about who's doing what, we just do that with financial content.
Amazing.
But we do it all about pensions and really exciting areas such as pensions and protection and wills and long-term care. So really exciting areas.
And tell us a little bit about that's how that sort of is taken off, because I do think that these sort of areas are things that which sometimes people struggle to get the education and to look at various different pieces. I love the idea of snackable content. Things there where people can go into it, pick things up, develop, learn and grow. How's that been received in the industry? Because as you say, look, it's an industry there that's quite traditional.
Correct.
You were very sort of self-deprecating about the space at that sort of stage. But when you actually look at it, there's an awful lot in there that is very, as I say, traditional, probably the best way, conservative, traditional sort of area. But when you look at how you can do things differently and give a different way of learning, particularly as the way the world's developing at the moment, and as we talked about that snackable content, that must be an interesting sort of collision of digital and traditional for you to deal with.
Absolutely. And so looking at the video at the Money Alive Office proposition, that's all about this education up front. So that's the first thing. So it's not trying to breach an advice guidance or advice at all. It's prepping a customer, a client, a viewer to be ready for that advice point, and that has loads of benefits. From the advisor's point of view, they've got a more prepared customer to ask the right questions of what they're there to do. So it might be on pensions, it might be on long-term care, it doesn't really matter. It's all dependent on what the advisor wants somebody to be prepared for. So when we started this, as you've quite read, there was a hump in the road. Okay, we're going to, instead of sending you loads of documentations and PDFs or whatever it may be, it's going to be a video. And the reason for that is that video as an area for engagement is way more powerful. I mentioned earlier, if you take Pride and Prejudice, the book, and Pride and Prejudice, the movie, and this is an old example, which if somebody's watched this before will know, but something like 11 million people watched the movie and 50,000 people bought the book.
Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Probably don't quite quote me on that, but it's close enough. But the point being is that video content is a way better conduit for education or for understanding than the written word. And that's where the idea.
To do it in your own time and on your own.
100%. But the other side of it is, and the trick of it is whilst the viewer, the client, the customer is watching this content, is creating a viewing record that the advisor, who is our client, has, which can deal with things. At the moment, consumer duty will be coming across, and particularly consumer understanding, where you need to evidence that a customer, before they go to advice, is fully conversant with the subject on which you're having a conversation. So we do two things. We're taking, sometimes, let's say, content of a certain type and making it engaging. And really engaging. So a customer goes, wow, that's brilliant. And on the other side of it, the risk and governance departments of advisors are going, wow, I've got an evidence record that customer fully understood that subject before they sat down with the advisor.
Okay, yeah.
And you can do it with consistency and with a way, as you mentioned, of giving that viewer, that customer, the ability to dip in and out.
Yeah.
What's also interesting is that the content is available across all sorts of different devices. We don't stop at a particular type of device. So a lot of the stuff is done on iPads, phones, tellies, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But the information that the customer is viewing becomes a recorded record, an evidence record that I mentioned before meets with a consumer duty requirement.
Which comes down to the whole concept of data, right, and how important data is in this.
Absolutely, and getting it right.
Yeah.
So that's the Money Alive office aspect, and it's been very successful. We have some major clients that use the system for a number of years, from LV, Mazars, or Forvis Mazars as they're known today, to Succession Wealth, to Open Work. Companies like that have really engaged with the product, and they're using that as a way of consistency of delivery of information, engaging customers and giving advisors a much more efficient solution at the advice point. So that's Money Alive Office. 2 or 3 years ago, we started to look at personalised video, and that's the video canvas proposition, which is one of the reasons we're here today, which is all about turning a benefit statement or an investment statement, an ISA statement, and turning that into a video that is bespoke to the viewer.
Okay.
And we found a solution, we developed a solution in-house, and that solution is all about enabling you to create one video, or a video canvas, because it's a video and the canvas is where the development and the personalization happens, and making individual to each and every one of your customers or clients.
Incredible.
So again, developed.
Bespoke personalisation again, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's USPs that we've looked at globally against a global background is accessibility to that information, it's engaging, and that viewer is really learning about their own circumstances of a particular presentation. But the other side of it is the security of the data that's also living within that particular video. And that is the real key. So when we create a video canvas, it can stay on our clients' digital network, if you like. And that is a real difference, and particularly in a regulated industry, that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah.
But we do it at scale. So we have some major clients, Hayward being probably the most prominent that we have, who are using the system and introducing the system to a whole over 100 different local government schemes, pension schemes, where they want to deliver a benefit statement to a member of a scheme and do it at scale. Or the Railways Pension Scheme, or RailPen, is another example, and we have a number of others. What we're trying to do today, and it brings me on to why we're here today, is
great question.
That we want to put this idea of technology and introduce it into wealth management. Because the same rules apply, and with consumer duty, it comes up again, and consumer understanding being a really important factor, then the ability to be able to deliver a personalised introduction to a portfolio, which is of theirs making, so their valuation, their asset allocation, their attitude to risk, and all of those things, and be able to deliver that at the beginning of an engagement, typically with an existing client, that can then be evidenced and help that you've done that, and that the customers also understand. There's lots of things we do, recaps and all that kind of thing. But ultimately, we're creating a conduit for a customer to really understand what they've got, an investment portfolio, an ISA portfolio, their pension statement. Doesn't matter what it is, and we work very much in partnership with our clients, and that's why we're here today. So wealth management businesses, some of the larger business and larger distributors, instead of it just being another a real example, 146 pages of an annual report.
Yeah.
Been telling me all about the wonderful benefits of sustainability they're achieving, but sending it to me on a tree, we can get past that, and also evidence that that client, in my case me, has actually watched it and understood it, and I even tested if that's needs be, and then I could say download it as a digital format.
And this is the second year you've been at the event.
It is, yes.
And I'm encouraged to see a sort of stream today running all the way through, which talks about embedding technology within a sector that probably hasn't necessarily embraced technology as much as other areas. Tell us a few of the themes that you expect to see being talked about today, some of the conversations you're having here.
Yeah, so for me, the important thing about where we live and how it, in context of today, there is a lot of fabulous technology that's going on, a lot of software, if you like, a lot of digital solutions. And they're all about, a lot of the time, it's about the back office and rightly smoothing out, taking costs and time and individuals' time out of the process so they can focus on the client. Where we're different is that we're always about the front of office. We're about the front. So the video canvas, for example, as a really good example of that, a good example, is that can be tailored dependent on a client's expectation of risk, for example. So that customer, when they're watching, you're giving them an enhanced experience over the 20 pages of a document. And that falls back to the benefit of the advisor that's offering the proposition. But it's also smoothing the path. So the way we work it is that video canvas will tie in directly into, for example, a CRM. A lot of the work we do is at the beginning to see how it can bolt together with the client and their existing systems. So it's front of office where we work, and we think we're a bit different.
I think that's such an important distinction to make, because I speak to people a lot on this show, a lot of in the day job as well, about customers and their proposition and businesses within this space. And you're right, the mots du jour, so to speak, are always about cost reduction, friction reduction, and all that sort of thing. But I think that sort of user experience and how you can enhance it and then increase productivity of businesses is just as an important an aspect of where we want to go, particularly when we talk about, and something I speak about a lot about on the show, is how you can only reduce costs so much, and with costs increasing inexorably over time, you have to have something there which is going to increase the productivity of everyone within that sort of space.
Absolutely.
That's where you guys come in, by the looks of it.
It is. There's a great report done by Alpha Consulting that we kind of very kindly lent to us, but it's talking about analysing businesses and where the advisor is engaged in a customer journey. And there's 70% of that where he or she doesn't need to be involved if there's a suitable or better digital solution. So, for example, I think if you think of an advisor being the pounds, shillings, and pence of the deal, i.e. the price per hour, how efficient can you make that individual? That's done by the customer having better information ahead of a process, them being better prepared so they know what the conversation, because the system allows for our viewer to ask a question and all that kind of thing. So when it gets to the advice point, everybody's more efficient in how that's going to operate. And Alpha did this work. They reckon that an advisor, and don't hold me, this is not our data, they reckon it's around 30 hours of an advisor's time is not actually doing the advice. And so if you say, well, if you're on, I'm making the number up, £200 an hour, maybe you could replace some of that or a lot of that with something provided, and this is the front end point I was talking about before, that the customer engagement is of a value to your client or your prospect. And that's where the penny drops a lot of the time. Oh, hang on a minute, this is not taking me away from, it's actually making me as the advisor more efficient, effective. I've got a risk and governance department that loves me to bits, because actually I've now got consistency of information about education on a particular subject, but I've also got an evidence record that enables us to be able to sit back on our board reporting which I think is in July, on my consumer duty report, and to be able to provide the data that evidences that my consumer has full understanding, and I can then, with a click of a button, give that to the FCA.
That's absolutely where it should be. So it's an exciting time for yourself, for the business.
Sure.
Let's summarise by talking about where you're at, what's exciting and what's happening at the moment, and what the rest of 2025 looks like for you.
Yeah. Well, if I start with the rest of the 2025, we, in a good way, we're spinning our wheels. We're making some real great progress. Today is about opening that into the wealth market, and we'll continue to do that for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. We're determined that the use of media, if it's properly integrated, will be the value add that we believe it is. We've just announced last week a strategic partnership with Hayward, who I mentioned earlier, for pension and member communication, and we're working together now with them. There's plenty of case studies available. I'm happy to share. If you go to the Hayward website, they've got plenty on there, but they show you how they're using particularly video canvas in that area. I think they're up for something like 8 awards at the moment for this. So,
is that right?
Yeah, I might be, again, so don't quote me on that, but it's something like that.
Between 1 and 8.
Yeah. And then on the other side, it was announced last year, the tie-up with IntelliFlow as well,
yes,
where you'll be able to access what we do slightly differently, but through them. So it becomes part of a much simpler click and play for clients who are using IntelliFlow. As you know, probably over 55% of the admin market for financial advisors in the UK.
Incredible.
So those are two big areas of distribution, but we're looking on top of that to areas of wealth. So that could be family law offices, wealth management, asset management. Imagine if you replaced every one of your quarterly fact sheets with a 2 to 3 minute video, which a viewer might actually, rather than put in the drawer, actually listen to and watch and enjoy.
Yeah. I mean,
and save a tree.
As you can probably imagine, with what we're doing, I'm a big believer in this sort of thing. That not only saving trees, but also giving people content that's for want of a better expression, just usable.
Correct.
And I think the days there of going through that sort of stuff. Look, there's a necessity to have things there which people can download and look through and go into the detail. This ability to bring things to life and humanise, I'm a massive fan of. As you say, look, there's so much scale in this industry, this space. Very exciting times for you, Jim.
It is. If I've got an addendum to this, the other area that to be aware of, and something that's going to increasingly relevant, is addressing particularly vulnerable client engagements. How does somebody, there's a lot of what we're doing. One of our box sets on the Money Alive product is equity release. Equity release is temporary vulnerability potentially, and again the FCA is looking at this really, really carefully about how advisors are dealing with this part of the market. To have something that can address that and address it in a way that a customer, in the format that the customer, the viewer, the client can look at and address the vulnerability part of it, is becoming increasingly important, and we feel we're in a very strong position to do that. So in some way that needs to be recognised of what we've been about. Also accessibility as well, which again with the VC product, the video canvas product, is also an important factor. So how do people view it? And because of the scale of that, you need to be able to address that, and we do that as well.
Well, it's so good that it comes from so many different angles for you as a business. And as you say, look, it's quite often the case. You're 8 years in as a business, right? And as you do that, and you see doors open up to different opportunities and how things can morph and change and grow and all that sort of stuff.
And we will keep following that.
Keep on going through
it. So hopefully lead. There's always a double-edged sword leading, because you've got to bring people along with you.
Yeah, well, but the early adopter advantage
100%, doesn't it? 100%. Yeah.
Listen, it's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Toby.
And thank you all for listening. Please do get in touch with him, and we'll catch up with you very soon. Thanks a lot.